So the foreclosure statistics are underestimated, underreported, and often misleading. So the point is, don't believe what you see, read, or hear about foreclosures in the housing narrative from mainstream media. Randy Patrick here. Welcome to Housing Bubble 2.0. I'm putting the realism back in real estate. Hope you're doing well. Today is February the 10th, and you know what? I haven't done a video for a while, and the reason being because I'm out in the field every day picking up deals, doing stuff that really I talk about in my channel here, all right? This video was brought to you by our friends at Foreclosure.com. If you want to find out the foreclosures or short sales or tax deeds or distressed property in your neighborhood, your zip code, etc., go to gethousingdata.com. That's gethousingdata.com. That's my affiliate link. You can check it out. Foreclosure.com is the leading provider of distressed property listings across the country. So here's the scoop. I'm going to go through a scenario with you guys today. All right. So I actually got a call, believe it or not, this morning. A late email came at 11 o'clock last night. I was not checking my email at that point in time. Woke up this morning, went on my email, saw that one of my investor contacts said, hey, I need to talk to you immediately about a deal. Give me a shout. Called them this morning, and we went through a potential, well, it's a foreclosure situation, and we're jumping on it. We've talked to the homeowner, my attorney, his attorney, the whole bit. We've sort of worked some stuff out. I'm going there tomorrow to basically secure the deal tomorrow afternoon. But I wanted to use this as an example as to why, as I mentioned at the start of the video, why the foreclosure information is not always correct. Now, I want to be clear here, all right? This is not a knock on the data service providers, people who are doing statistics, whatever. I just think it's the nature of the business, because why I always say that we're going to have more problems than I guess are being let on right now is because it's very difficult to track foreclosure filings, particularly filings that were done multiple years ago, like i.e., pre-COVID, pre-2019, because what typically happens is these data companies really only pick up or store or report on a couple years worth of foreclosure filings. From what I've been able to ascertain or understand, the longer the foreclosure sits around, they sort of determine, well, there's been no activity, we're going to drop it from our statistical counts, and therefore, it still hasn't been dealt with. It's still out there, but it doesn't appear on anything you're looking at here. So this is an example. So again, I looked up the property through all my information. So if you go to Zillow, you can see this property. It's in Gulfport, which is right here in the St. Petersburg, Tampa Bay, Clearwater area. It's in Gulfport. It's off market. You can see those estimates. Nowhere does it say it's for sale. And nowhere do you see that little information or little button that says, oh, pre-foreclosure or auction. All right. So Zillow doesn't show this as a pre-foreclosure. All right. So let's go to the next slide here. This is out of my own MLS. There's sometimes various MLSs could have multiple listing service software, could have features and stuff that can help you determine, and find the foreclosures in the area. Well, in this case, I pulled this up through the software portal called RealList. It shows it's an expired listing, but nowhere on there does it say pre-foreclosure or facing an auction. So again, this would not be apparent. Well, if I go, even a little deeper into that RealList, where the arrow is, that's the property on the map. And if it's an active foreclosure, normally we're going to see all these little colored dots on there. Well, there is one that shows it's in pre-foreclosure. It's actually a little orange dot, and there's kind of a yellowy dot with a stick on it that shows if it's facing auction. So that didn't get picked up by the software as well. And furthermore, if you want to look at the data company, so I went to foreclosure.com. I typed in the address in Gulfport, basically came back with nothing. See, foreclosure homes in Gulfport. So try a different search or click on nearby area. So didn't pick up on the address. Thought, let's verify this, even went to auction.com. Same thing, put in the property address. It did not appear. So here's the scoop. It doesn't appear on basic data services that you could pick off or you could look at and go, hey, there's an opportunity here. Well, this has come in through a contact, as an investor contact, who knows the people or a relation to the homeowners involved. So that's how we're going to sort of grab the deal. But the point I'm trying to make here is that this is just one example of a foreclosure filing that happened basically, maybe the case number starts in 19, so it's a 2019 filing that's still active in foreclosure processing, the local court case, etc., that doesn't appear in any data services that you can subscribe to. So, and again, listen, I also want to caveat or qualify this too. Okay, this is just a couple that I'm looking at, right? You may have PropStream or Property Radar or Batch Data or other data services that could pick up on it. I'm just saying that the few that I've looked at don't really have it. And also, I'm dealing with a lot of people who are, I call the legacy pre-foreclosures, because they did have foreclosure filings either back in the last housing crisis or, 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, somewhere in that time frame. They don't appear in these data searches as well, too. You got to sort of dig for them. But they are, if you know the case numbers, you can look them up in the county websites and see what's going on. So my point is that when we take a look at the housing market and we take a look at what's going on, and obviously we've had a lot of people discussing over the past little while where things are headed and what's going to happen in 2023 and beyond. Everybody is doing their best predictions and analysis as to, will we have a correction, will we have a crash, yada yada. Either you're for or against, you're pro or con. I don't personally care. I know where things are going. I'm prepared and I'm doing the work that I need to do to be successful in this next market change. But the point I'm trying to make is that all this discussion is sort of being worked around the current marketplace and interest rates and inventory, etc. Nobody's considering the volume of foreclosures. And when you go to the narrative, they talk about, well, the foreclosures aren't really making an impact because they're not really here yet, and we don't know how many they're going to be, etc., etc. And all the lenders are going to have solutions. They're not going to make they're not going to make a dent. Oh, and they all have equity, blah, blah, blah. So I can tell you that that's not going to be the case. And that's why I always stress saying it's the stuff we don't know about that's actually going to change the market and make a big difference as time goes on. So you got to keep that in mind. So having said that, Adam Data Solutions releases their U.S. foreclosure activity for January, so January 2023. Basically, it continues to increase annually for 21 consecutive months. And when we talk about foreclosure activity, we're talking about default notices, which is, filings, scheduled auctions, bank repossession. So the overall activity up 36% from a year ago and up 2% from the prior month. So it doesn't, obviously we can break that down into repossessions, filings, whatever, as time goes on. But the point is that we're seeing a fairly straight increase every month of this activity. So the highest foreclosure rates are in Delaware, Illinois, and Michigan. We're looking at, so again, Delaware, Illinois, Michigan, New Jersey, and Maryland are the top 5 states for foreclosure rates. Metros that have a lot of foreclosures or high foreclosure rates are Fayetteville, North Carolina, Bakersfield, California, Cleveland, Ohio, Detroit, Michigan, Laredo, Texas. Bigger cities other than Cleveland, Detroit that have the worst foreclosure rates are Chicago, Illinois, Riverside, California, Las Vegas, Nevada. So again, it's the cities and metros that sort of took a hit the last housing crisis. They're sort of rearing their ugly heads again. So foreclosure starts. This is the one I'm more concerned about. Is the foreclosure starts are exactly what it is. It's a lis pendens foreclosure filing or a notice of default increase monthly in 31 states, including the District of Columbia. So basically, they started the foreclosure process in about almost 21,000 properties this past January, down 1% from December, but up 75% from a year ago. So we are seeing some, year-over-year increases for sure. The states that saw the greatest number of foreclosure filings included California, Texas, Florida, New York, and Illinois. So no surprise there. These are pretty much the number 1 populated states. Among the major statistical locations, you've got New York up there, Chicago, Illinois, LA, California, Houston, Texas, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So again, the bigger cities in the bigger states are obviously going to have the lion's share, but it goes to show you that regardless of where the housing market was headed or is headed, or any potential recovery that's being bantered about right now, is that we're having foreclosure filings and they're increasing. And at some point in time, they're going to get a lot more voluminous than they are today, and they will eventually make an impact in the overall housing market. How do they make an impact? Well, additional choice, additional opportunities, lower price points. Hopefully that'll drag down the average or the median price points across the country and across various locations. So that's what you're looking at here. So, oh, by the way, folks, I put out all sorts of information all the time, and I try to be as direct as possible with what's really going on in the housing industry. If you like my channel, like the information, if you could do me the great honor of subscribing, I'd really appreciate that. And again, if you are a subscriber, could you please smash the subscribe button once again and resubscribe, because I lose subscribers every day for some unknown reason. All right, keep going on here. So, which sort of dovetails into what I'm talking about here is home equity flattens out across fourth quarter of 2022. So this kind of dovetails with respect to the foreclosure fines and where things are at. The reason being because quarterly, Adam Data Solutions releases their home equity and underwater property report. So obviously they're looking at what's going on in home equity underwater report. And basically 48% of mortgage residential properties in the U.S. were considered equity rich. And that basically means that you've got a 50% or greater equity than your loan value. So your LTV, so today's appraised value, your loan to value is basically 50%. Okay, so you got some good equity there, which again makes sense. We've had high appreciation over the past few years. Obviously, the past couple of years we've had 43% increase in appreciation year over year. So this should come as no surprise to people that are out there. All right. However, when you take a look at things, you're going to see some declines in equity now. So the largest decline in equity-rich shares of mortgages was spread across the West. So when you see things like, well, what do we got looking at here? We're looking at Idaho. Well, guess what? Idaho, Boise, Idaho area, number one sort of appreciation the past couple of years. Well, now they're now starting to lead the way in the decline in equity. Okay, Arizona, Nevada, Washington, Oregon. So again, it's the states that had the biggest growth, the exponential growth. They're going to feel the pinch when it comes down, when it slides the other way, off the curve. On the other end of the spectrum, the South had 5 of the top 10 states where equity-rich share of mortgage homes increased. Funny enough. Okay, the largest increases of equity were Montana, Kansas, Delaware, Mississippi, and Arkansas. So funny that, again, it just depends on how different markets sort of react to what's going on across the board here. So despite the new pattern equity-rich mortgages, however, the report also shows that just 2.9% of mortgaged homes, or 1 in 34, were considered seriously underwater in the fourth quarter of 22. It meant that they had a combined estimated balance of loans secured by the property of at least 25% more than the property's estimated market value. The last seriously underwater figure was unchanged from 2.9% in the prior quarter and was still down from 3.1% in the fourth quarter of 2021. So what that basically means is seriously underwater. So what they're saying is that if your property value is $100,000, your mortgage balance, your payoff is $125,000 or greater. So essentially, if you sold your home today, you'd only get $100,000 for it. You'd have to bring money to the closing table to pay off your liens and balances of the mortgage. So obviously people don't want to do that. So basically, you're considered underwater. Now, realize that what they're saying here, this is almost 3% are seriously underwater, which means there's a portion of the mortgages that are 1% underwater to 24% underwater. Okay, and that's just on mortgage balance. Now realize that if you were to sell, if you have an underwater, any property, if you're going to sell your property, typically you want to get the most for it. You're going to list it with a real estate agent on the local MLS, multiple listing service. And what are you going to find? You're going to find that when you actually go to closing, you're going to pay a couple percentage points in normal closing costs, and you're going to pay maybe 5 or 6 points in real estate commissions. So that's never talked about here as well too. So you think about seriously underwater. Well, maybe if you start adding closing costs and commissions, that's just loan balance to market value. Start adding like a true transaction and closing, that actually makes things worse off than they really are. So please keep that in mind. That's the way it kind of works in the real estate world here, guys. So I just wanted, so this really ties in. And again, this was a lot more back in the day. We've been holding at that 3% rate for quite some time right now. Largest shares of seriously underwater mortgages, again, the Midwest and the South. We take a look at the top 5 states were Louisiana, 10% greater seriously underwater, Missouri, Mississippi, Illinois, and Iowa. The smallest shares of underwater mortgages were Vermont, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Florida, and Massachusetts. Florida, which is surprising because we do have a lot of people who are not paying their mortgage, but I guess we've had some property value increases that have been pretty strong the past couple of years. Now, again, when you start looking at locations, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Jackson, Mississippi, Syracuse, Scranton, Pennsylvania are locations that are getting a little beat up by being underwater. Basically, while most seriously underwater rates around the country changed by less than 1 percentage point from the third to fourth quarter, the portion increased in 82 or 77% of the 107 metro areas with enough data to analyze. Seriously underwater rates, however, remained down year over year in 66% of the metros analyzed. So again, we're still kind of in that sort of holding, little bit increases here, kind of holding pattern in some other locations. But again, realize that this is just the start. As equity changes, as the year goes on, we're going to see more underwater mortgages. More than 25% of residential mortgages seriously underwater in 23 zip codes. I'll show you that in a second here. There's a little chart on that. So we can see that top 10 U.S. counties with greatest shares of seriously underwater mortgages. Baltimore County, Maryland leads the way, almost a little over 7%. Philadelphia County, Pennsylvania, Cook County, Cuyahoga County, Ohio, Milwaukee County, Wisconsin, Wayne County, Michigan, Summit County, Ohio, St. Louis County, Missouri, Montgomery County, Ohio. So you take a look at where all these seriously underwater, properties are concentrated. It seems to be in that sort of Midwest, Ohio, Wisconsin area, Illinois, and I guess you could even do, even St. Louis County, Missouri. It's the other side of East Illinois, I believe, right? So seems to be kind of an area where there's a lot of underwater properties. That's probably got to do with the local economy, things like that. So something, but again, the point I'm trying to make here is that, it's not all hunky-dory in real estate land, all right? These are the things that do crop up from time to time. We're in a real estate cycle. We're going through a correction. We're going through a change. Will we crash? Well, I guess that's determined based on people's, percentage of loss of value as to what a crash is. We have varying reports from 5% to over 20%, 22%, some metros being 30, 40%. All depends on your perspective and who pays your salary, as far as I'm concerned. So anyway, that's interesting what's going on right now. More than 90% of homeowners facing foreclosure have at least some equity. Now, I'm going to say something here is that this is how I think they're calculating this, because I want to be clear here, is that equity is very subjective. And what I mean by that is, when you bought your home, you had a mortgage LTV of 70%. And, now that you're facing foreclosure, the property values have increased, so your LTV should actually be increased as well too. So therefore, you should have a lot of equity. Well, I think how they calculate is they take the loan balance, or loan at purchase versus current value right now. I'm pretty sure on that actually that's the way it works. So what they're not factoring in. And again, not 100% on this, but this is what I believe, because some of these numbers are so whacked out. I believe that they don't calculate, if you haven't paid your mortgage for 2 or 3 years or 4 or 5 years or more. Well, there's your principal balance. There's all that interest. There's escrows like taxes and property insurance, insurance, whatever. There will be foreclosure fees, from attorneys, whatever like that. So things will add up, and that essentially will chip down at your equity. That's why when they talk about, what should I do, and we review their homes, they think they have equity. They go, no, when you actually take a look at what it takes to bring your mortgage current or to pay off all the outstanding fees and loan balance, whatever, interest, etc., they don't have as much equity as they think they do. And that's where they actually can become underwater. So I think that this is where we see the issues in that really aren't apparent, and that they're gonna catch and trip up some people as time goes on. States with the largest portions of homeowners facing possible foreclosure had equity in their properties: Utah, Washington, Idaho, Colorado, Nevada. States with the lowest percentage of equity: Louisiana, Illinois, Maryland, North Dakota, and Virginia. So again, I think it depends on the location. I think it depends on the metro. I think it depends on the situation as to how long you haven't paid and what you've been chipping away at. Because remember, every month you don't pay, it's costing you money. You may think you're living for free, but what it's doing, it's actually chipping away at your equity every month that you don't pay your mortgage. So that's the kind of scoop here. So my point today is that there's a lot of talk going on here. A lot of I see the thumbnails of all the videos and what's going on, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting kind of bored with this right now. And again, as you can see, I'm actually bored of what I talk about. All right, for me, I don't have to explain that the housing crash is coming or it's here or whatever it is, because as far as I'm concerned, in a real life world where I participate, it's actually happening. So that's why I guess I'm a little bit lax in my videos and stuff. I'm just involved in transactions. I said, we jumped on one today. We're going to pick up tomorrow. That's a number of them that are going on. The weeks are getting busy and busier. This is what's happening in the real world, not just in the narrative for housing. So what are your opportunities we're looking forward here? Foreclosure auctions, obviously, bank owned, real estate owned, short sales, short payoff, taking the property subject to the mortgage, homeowners or condo association foreclosures, probate estate foreclosures. See a lot more of those, and what's called foreclosure, surplus, or overage as a way to earn income and do interesting deals in this marketplace here. So that's kind of what I talk about. It's what we're involved in, and it's just getting busier and busier and more opportunities. So I'm growing my business, I'm growing my contacts, I'm growing my real estate agent base, the whole bit. Realize I'm not just a real estate agent. I'm an investor first. I'm a licensed real estate broker, and we do a lot of neat, interesting things here. And we do all over all over Florida and different parts of the U.S. So how can I help you? I'm open for business. All right, buyers, new home construction, we can get our real estate agents to help you with that. Existing MLS properties, things you want to buy and sell. Investment opportunities. I see stuff all the time, every day that's off market. You might want to inquire. Things that are cash flow opportunities, Airbnb opportunities, fix and flip opportunities. We're seeing more activity now because people realize they need to sell. Single family homes, multifamily, see some multifamily here and there. I have build to rent, build to flip opportunities with builders and financing. Also, I'm involved with people who can finance, lenders, hard money, etc. Again, you got to qualify. There's no 100% financing available out there. You got to qualify for these things, but there's options down here as well too. So that's what I'm talking about. Inquire, we'll help you out. Again, my new foreclosure program is released. We're looking at growing that. This is where you want to be as the time goes on in the next few years. This is where all the fun's going to be in the marketplace, guys. So once again, appreciate the views, likes, comments. Please share the video with your family and friends. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. We'll look forward to speaking with you in a couple of days.